Thank you. You've both named public safety as a top concern that you are campaigning on. According to the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, overall crime rates in Washington started to decline last year, but murders, vehicle thefts are still significantly higher than they were in 2019. Other crimes have also risen in recent years, hate crimes, for example. As governor, what would you do differently to address these issues? And please be specific. Mr. Ferguson first. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, and thanks for taking this issue on first, because the first plan I put out on my website in this campaign was on public safety. Folks can go to my website and they can see that. Here's what I would do that's different. One statistic you did not include, but it's equally important, is the fact that Washington State ranks last per capita in number of law enforcement officers that we have in the state of Washington. My plan includes putting into my first budget as governor $100 million to hire additional law enforcement officers all across the state. That's money that can be used by local jurisdictions to add to salaries or use for hiring bonuses. You also mentioned hate crimes. Part of my plan includes hiring more folks with the State Patrol, but specifically to create a hate crimes unit to make sure we're addressing those crimes as well. That's a part of my detailed plan for addressing public safety. And lastly, as Attorney General, I'm proud to lead a criminal division that works with local prosecutors. When they don't have the jurisdiction to bring a case, they can turn to my team. We have brought cases on behalf of jurisdictions all across the state. Republican prosecutors, Democratic prosecutors all across the state. They may endorse Dave, they may endorse me, but they agree on one thing. They can send their toughest cases to me and to my team, and we'll prosecute those cases to the fullest extent of the law.
And Mr. Reichert.
Well, I think it's clear that I'm the only public safety candidate in this race. I have a clear record in my 33 years in the sheriff's office. Also worked on the Homeland Security Committee for 4 years in Congress, chairman of the Emergency Preparedness Subcommittee. And after so many years in law enforcement, I find it interesting that all of a sudden Mr. Ferguson recognizes that there is a crime problem when he's been the Attorney General for 12 years. In fact, murders have almost doubled since the time he took office as Attorney General. Domestic violence is up 134%. Crime has increased over the last 12 years, and finally Mr. Ferguson has recognized that we are the lowest per capita in the entire country as it relates to the number of police officers serving our state. So we are, for example, the State Patrol is about 200 officers down. WSP is 200 officers down. SPD 600. King County 150.
Mr. Reichert, I'm sorry, that's time.
Yep.
The follow-up here, Mr. Ferguson, as your opponent here has mentioned, Washington, you have been Attorney General for 12 years. Washington is ranked 51st among the states in the District of Columbia, I believe, in police per capita for all that time, according to the Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs. Where have you been on this issue? There were some bills in the legislature that I recall you expending any political capital on or publicly really supporting that would do what you're suggesting now, which is give localities money and help in hiring local police officers. Where have you been, and why should voters trust you to take up this issue now?
Well, first, we did sign in support of legislation to do exactly that.
Right, somebody from your office signed in, but you did not testify.
If I can finish my answer. So
sure.
I did that, number one. Number two, let's get one thing straight. Dave said I'm the only public safety candidate. Dave, I'm sorry. I'm going to take no lectures from you about public safety when you are voting for and supporting a convicted felon for president, who, by the way, is also a convicted sexual abuser. In that race for president, I support a prosecutor. You support a convicted felon. So you have no standing to say you are somehow the only public safety candidate. And let's be perfectly clear. I spent my time as Attorney General working with prosecutors across the state. When they cannot charge those cases, some endorse him, some endorse me, but they're united in bringing me the toughest cases, the murders, the attempted murders, so we can prosecute those cases.
Mr. Reichert, you'd like to respond to that?
Yes, sir.
And candidates do pivot during a campaign. They bring up new issues. You bringing up some issues that you've talked about differently when you were in Congress. What's your response to Mr. Ferguson here?
Well, first of all, I think I've worked at probably the most serious serial murder case in the country in the history of this country. I think most people are aware of that. Secondly, I am the only public safety candidate in this race because I understand police officers. I was one. Just to address this is not a money issue as it relates to police departments and sheriff's offices across the state. This is an issue about trust for cops. And let me just, and I can explain that later as we go through the debate, but let me just also say, I hate to disappoint you, Bob, but I am not supporting Mr. Trump. I'm making that announcement tonight. I'm also not supporting Mrs. Harris.
And that is time. Gentlemen, we're going to move on.
Can I respond to that? I'm sorry, please. I mean, Donald Trump, he's telling you, the people of Washington State, he's telling you that he doesn't support Donald Trump any longer. You reported this, Jim. You spoke to a group of Republican Party activists, and you said you are supporting Donald Trump. Specifically, what you did
was
you said.
True. That is not true, Mr. Ferguson.
I'll take my time back.
His campaign is built on lies.
Gentlemen, we're going to have to...
So, Congressman, that may be
you
okay.
You got to tell the truth, Mr. Ferguson.
I'm
going to interrupt you every time you lie.
We're going to move on. I'm sorry.
You've got to tell the truth.
Just to be clear, I'm not going to let him interrupt me and lose my time.
Every statement that you've made, every ad that you've had on TV,
Gentlemen, I'm going to have to just reinforce the rules. You've agreed not to ask each other direct questions. We're going to ask you to not interrupt one another respectfully. I am going to give Mr. Ferguson 15 seconds and Mr. Reichert 15 seconds. Then we will move on to the next topic. Mr. Ferguson.
Dave, you may think interrupting people is okay back in Washington, D.C., where you serve. It's not okay here. I will not let you do it. Number two, it's been reported in the Seattle Times when you were asked about Trump. You said, if I say I'm supporting Trump, I'll be in trouble politically. What's my head doing? And you were nodding, and your own supporters acknowledged that, as was reported in the Seattle Times. So the idea that you're going to come here
Mr.
and tell people
Ferguson, you are
Trump.
obsessed with Donald Trump. I am not obsessed with Donald Trump. Please move off of Donald Trump and stop your obsession with Donald Trump. And if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen.
Gentlemen, with that, we are going to move on to the next topic.
I'm sorry. It's going to be a long night if he keeps interrupting me and keeps trying to add more time. I'm just saying you need to enforce the rules.
Hey, I took my time, Mr. Ferguson, and now you've added extra time.
On behalf of our viewers who really want us to cover as many topics as possible,
I appreciate
so that they can decide how they're going to vote in the fall.
He keeps interrupting me. I'm respecting your rules. I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you that you enforce them with Mr. Reichert.
Not to interrupt me as the moderator.
I am fine.
I am going to move on to the next topic, gentlemen, respectfully.